Okay.
Okay, we're recording. Can you start again, Tomisi?
Yeah. So as I said, my name is Tomisi. I'm a freshman, currently studying electrical engineering and computer science. I got involved with Build It Yourself around March, April, I think. And working on the Invention Universe project, it's my first time really working on like a major web development project. So like it's been really cool to see how this works like from the ground up. Especially because like I really like the idea of Invention Universe because like I did a ton of projects as a kid, but like those ended up being kind of lost to the wayside, and like when it came time to like look back at stuff and like see what I did, it was really hard to find that. So like having this like gamified portfolio is really cool for kids to have. And then like in terms of professional development, like using what we use, because we're getting involved with like serverless Amazon Web Services.
Mm-hmm. We might have lost you for a moment, Tomisi. Tomisi, are you still there? I think we lost Tomisi. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. I think we lost Tomisi. Lucian, can you chime in?
Yeah, totally. So my name is Lucian. I've been with Build It Yourself for about, I want to say like 4 or 5 months. I got started with Build It Yourself around February, I would say, and it's been a really great time. I'm also a rising sophomore at MIT studying electrical engineering and computer science. And it's been a really, really interesting and fulfilling experience working with Build It Yourself and just seeing how all of these different bits and pieces work together and learning the kinds of infrastructures that real like successful businesses practice and just seeing the kinds of things that we can expect to be doing when we're actually working in the real world. And it's a really, really great experience just to be able to work with a team where, you know, you're not like several chains down the command line, you know, you're really close to the source of the command, right? So we always talk with John, who is like the CEO, you know, founder, well, not the CEO anymore, but the founder of Build It Yourself. And it's just like a really cool experience. I don't know, the small business dynamic is, I think, really important for being able to be super involved and get a lot out of any business venture. But I might be a little bit biased because I've been with Build It Yourself for a little while, but I think it's a really, really great experience just to be able to see what it's like to be in a production setting and, you know, get experience and have a little bit of fun on the way in kind of a more, I don't know, like inviting environment, I'd say.
Cool.
Yeah, it's nice too because you have like direct input on all the decisions that like you want to make, like determining like based on your work. Like if you have questions about like the design of a web page or something, like you can propose like a different way, and that gets taken into consideration like pretty much immediately.
Great.
Yeah.
Lucian and Tomisi, can you share a little bit about the courses you're taking at MIT and why you got interested in computer science, electrical engineering? Tomisi, maybe you can start.
Yeah. So this past semester, I think I took, or like this past year, I guess the main like I took an intro computer science class and then like an algorithms course, and then also embedded systems course, which is like mostly like Internet of Things type class where we gotta build whatever. And then yeah, those were the main EECS courses. that I took. But I was mainly interested in that major for the versatility of it, because I knew I liked to build things. I knew I liked STEM. I knew that like I wanted to do that in some capacity.
Great.
Yeah.
And how did you know that? What projects did you work on in high school that turned you on to engineering?
Yeah. So in high school, I was really involved in my school's computer science club.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part part competition, but like for the most part, it was a lot of messing around and like building projects that like we were interested in or that we wanted to build. Just like whenever somebody had an idea, we could look into it and then say like, okay, that looks really cool, and then work together on doing that.
Great. Great. Lucian, can you share a little your trail, your background, what you like to do when you're not programming?
Yeah. So I also took that embedded systems class that Tomisi was talking about. And that was a really great experience because it was all just hands-on lab learning. And I really enjoyed that, and I'm sure Tomisi did as well. It's known as one of the like best classes that MIT has to offer for computer science. But yeah, it's really great. And I also, over our winter term, I was a part of this program called Momentum, which was all project-based as well. And we were all just building projects for General Motors and their like car prototypes. So they're making autonomous vehicles, and their autonomous vehicle team essentially had a competition for us to create projects for them to like enhance user safety for people with disabilities. And so that was a really, really great just experience in general, because we were able to really work as a team and create a project that like we had full design control over, and it was really, really interesting and cool. So that was another really great time I've had, just like creating and just being an engineer, which I really, really value. And the reason I wanted to do like, or the reason I ended up in the computer science major was kind of because, so I had originally wanted to be a mechanical engineer, but for the reason of building robots and just robotics. And then as I was at MIT for a little while, I realized that what I wanted to do exactly with robotics even was going to be more accurately fulfilled through computer science. So I made that switch pretty soon after getting to MIT. And I have not regretted it. I still think it's a really, really interesting and fulfilling field, because there's so much that's always happening with it, and it's so applicable to the modern day. Like everything has computers in it. So in order to be like, I think, a really, really successful engineer, you have to have some element of computer science knowledge. It's practically required.
Great. Interesting perspective. And when you're not programming, Lucian, what are your favorite things to do?
Yeah, I like to play the guitar. I like to go to the beach. Where I live in California is very close to the beach, so I like going down there. During COVID, obviously, it's a little bit different. I spend a lot more time kind of indoors making music, but yeah, I enjoy messing around on the guitar, just spending time with family and hanging out, gardening a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of a different style of things than normal, I guess, because of COVID.
Great. So before Lucian and Tomisi give you some insight into the nitty gritty of Invention Universe, maybe we can go around the horn, and so Lucian and Tomisi can get to know a little of your background, Ari, Dan, Donovan, and Thomas. We're hoping that you guys will initially join our testing team. On July 15th, we're releasing a new version of Invention Universe, and we need some testers. So it's a good way to get familiar, intimate with the application. Then we hope you'll help us evolve, fine-tune our documentation. And then ultimately, if you're really into it, you can join the programming team. That's the path, or the graphic design team in Dan's case. So Ari, you'd like to start? Can you introduce yourself, where you're from, your experiences at Build It Yourself?
Me?
Ari, Ari, are you there?
I think he is.
Ari, your microphone is muted. Okay. Dan, can you go?
Sure. So my name's Dan. I've been in Build It Yourself for about 9 months already. And basically what we've been working on with the other interns was a Scratch project where we presented, well, the intern program, like with a kind of ad that we built. I was the one who made the graphics for that ad, and we uploaded to Scratch. And well, yes, I'm really interested in art as well as literature and graphic design. And
Great.
That's it.
Yeah. Dan is a really exotic artist. We met in New York last summer, and I know from the books that she's reading that she's really, really into the nitty-gritty of art.
Yeah.
Cool.
Donovan, do you like to share your passions with Lucian and Tomisi? Donovan, your microphone's muted. I guess we might be having some internet problems here.
Seems so.
All right, are you back on?
Yeah.
Hi, great, Ari. Both Ari and Dan are from Mexico, Lucian and Tomisi. Ari, can you share a little of your background? What you're interested in?
Well, I think that I really like programming. Basically, everything related to it, like on web pages, backend, front end, making applications for computers and stuff like that. And well, I basically got into programming with Build It Yourself. I didn't know anything about programming before, but I started taking classes here at Build It Yourself, and I really loved it. And well, I always try to learn more stuff and get into as many courses as I can.
Ari is very modest, Tomisi and Lucian. He's one of the most natural programmers that have ever come through Build It Yourself. And can you share some of the more interesting projects you've worked on, front end and back end, Ari? The joke page, the timer, the...
Okay. Well, yeah, the first project that I worked here in Build It Yourself that included both front end and back end was the joke page, which is basically a page where it picks a random joke from a database and displays it. And well, you can also choose like which jokes you want from just the URL, and it has several options and things like that. Then I don't think I worked in the timer application.
that's cool. I was using that joke generator for a little bit. I was playing around with it.
Can you tell the tools that you used in the software tools you used for the database joke application or for the project you're working on now, Ari?
Yeah, for the joke page application, we used PHP for the backend programming, and we had a database, MySQL database, and yeah, I think that's it. And the project I'm working on right now, we're using WordPress to handle all the data, and for
Great. Ari's working on indexing all of our 200 Build It blocks. And he's using WordPress in a really creative way with Brent and 2 other interns. Donovan, can you share your interests, and then you, Thomas?
Yeah, sorry, I had some type of disconnection with you guys.
No worries.
So, my name is Donovan. I've been in Build It Yourself for about like 2 or 3 months, and what I'm doing in Build It Yourself is making my own website. And hello, sorry.
Yep, we're there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really speak right now. I'm making a website using by coding by using HTML and
Sorry, Donovan. I think your microphone has got a shaky connection. Thomas, can you chime in?
So to build on what Donovan was saying, I'm moving my microphone. So we're working on building websites and things to display our passions and display what hope for. I think for Donovan, the purpose is to get into university. For me, it's to get into medical school for my website, and it's helping us learn like how to use HTML code and things like that. For me, my personal passions are, let's see, I really love to read. I really love to build things. I used to love Legos, but I kept losing all the Legos, and it was really sad.
Legos rules.
Legos was the best, but I just couldn't keep track of Legos for more than like 2 weeks. They'd always disappear, and then I'd have like half of a Lego. What
Great.
else? Yeah.
Great. Thomas is headed off to Case Western in the fall. Okay. I presume you guys have all had a quick look at the Invention Universe user interface file that I sent you. Should I go through that quickly before I pass the ball to Lucian and Tomisi? Or did you have any questions? Dan, do you want to ask your questions now about the user interface? Let me share real quick.
Sure.
Go ahead, Dan.
With Invention Universe website, we'll replace the DIY website that's on right now, like.
Correct. For kids.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have
I think the adult section is still going to be the same though.
Yeah.
Okay. And will the projects the member of Invention Universe is working on be saved on a portfolio that parents will be able to see?
Very good question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the portfolio is stored in the lab on every person's planet. That's where all of their work is stored.
All right.
And we have a vision to have a very playful portfolio once you upload your rocket ship and your aliens and all your bio information and your skill set. But then we also envision down the road that we'll make a formal PDF version of this from the data that we store so that it can be used in a college application.
All right. Okay. The aliens and the population of the planets will be like your own graphics. Like you will be able to upload them to the web page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can upload your. Well, we don't have the functionality yet, but yes, that is the plan: is to have everyone be able to upload their own stuff.
All right.
So we'll have a
Mhm.
library of graphics to choose from if you want to go quick, or you want to put a place mark on your planet, and then you can design or take a picture,
Mhm.
and then ultimately upload a JPEG
All right.
or PNG. Mhm. Yeah.
Mm,
Good questions, Dan. All good questions.
thank you. Also, what's gamify exactly?
Good. Wow. What's the definition in your mind, Tomisi, of gamify?
So I think the whole idea behind gamifying Invention Universe is just to make it seem like it's not work, to make it playful, to have it be something that like kids want to do rather than something
Oh,
they're forced into doing.
all right.
That's a good way of describing it. Most people would say to make it look like a computer game, but Tomisi gives a much better definition, to make it fun. I think that's a better definition of gamify.
All right.
It's a popular word now in education industry, or a controversial concept. How can
Yeah.
we make education more fun? And many people say by turning it into a computer game.
Yeah. I've heard it before, but I didn't know what did it mean.
Mhm.
Like, um,
Great.
also, what is a planet UX? Like, I read it on the PowerPoint, but I don't remember on
Okay.
which part.
So, Tomisi, do you like to explain that concept of UX? What UX versus UI means?
Um, so I've used UX and UI interchangeably, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Let me give my perspective, and then Lucian and Tomisi, you can tell me what they tell you at MIT. User interface, or UI as it's often abbreviated, means the graphics that the user sees, the navigation sequence, the sitemap. User interface means how do you get from one screen to another. UX, I think, is more philosophical. It's how do you want the user to feel when they're using your application? So I think there's some people will make that subtle distinction between UX, user experience, and UI, the logic and the sequence and the actual graphics.
Okay.
Interesting differentiation, though.
All right.
Lucian, anything to add to that? UX, UI?
Yeah, really, like the UI is mainly what the user is going to see and like feel, like whatever like the really tangible things are when you're creating something that interacts with a user. UX is definitely, it's more of that kind of like ambiguous term of how you want the user to really like feel when you're creating some kind of product, like what their experience is going to be. So like, for example, when we were designing our product to interact with disabled people, to help make autonomous cars safer for disabled people, we had to both develop like a user interface that makes sense and is applicable to people with certain disabilities, but also the entire experience we kind of had to monitor and keep track of, both through like end user interviews and just kind of thinking to ourselves, trying to like empathize or sympathize with the prospective users and see how we would feel or what we would like think and whether or not we would want this product to be like in in our lives or whatever, in the product that we're using, like in our car. So a UI, like you can have a good UI and a bad UX, if that makes sense. Like you
Yeah.
can have a beautiful product, but if it's put in the wrong place or kind of used in the wrong purpose, then the UX of that product, like the overall effect that you're having on your user, doesn't really match that beautiful UI.
Great,
All right.
great definition. I can tell you that when we start a development project, we almost always start with the UI. Well, actually with the UX. What are our goals for the user? The big picture, the big umbrella. How do we want the user, what do we want the user to ultimately get? And then we specify in great detail, screen by screen, how the user gets from one area to another area of the application. And from that user interface, then the programming, both the front end programming and the back end programming, become much more clear. I mean, that's our approach. I don't know if you've had similar experiences, Tomisi and Lucian, in projects you've worked at MIT. Do you start with UI, or do you start with I don't know, the database or whatever?
Yeah, you typically start with the overhead kind of umbrella type idea, figure out who your target audience is, and trying to really figure out what specific problem you're trying to tackle. And then once you have those hashed out, it's a lot easier, I feel like, to develop the actual specifics of your user interface and everything that you're going to be using. But identifying some kind of problem and solution is definitely the first step.
Definitely first step. And that's all part of the UX design, user experience design. Okay, great. So just to give you guys some insight into the nitty gritty here, this is by far the most advanced coding project we've ever had at Build It Yourself. We're on version 3 of it now. It started in 2009, and over the years it's evolved to get more and more functionality and accommodate the latest hardware and software platforms. Do you like to start, Tomisi, with the front-end design? I mean, I think everyone roughly knows the user interface design. You navigate, but go ahead, Tomisi, explain the way you would like to explain the front end, which is Tomisi and Michael's responsibility. Both Tomisi and Michael and Lucian, they're all rising sophomores at MIT. And Tomisi and Michael are working on the front end. Lucian's working on the back end and helping me manage the project. Go ahead, Tomisi.
Yeah, so the Invention Universe, it's split up into quadrants, galaxies, and systems, right? And then each user has their own planet, and this is kind of the way to break it down, so that every user, so that it's easier for users to navigate to their planet, besides having 100,000 planets and making it really difficult to determine which is which. But you can go through the quadrants, universe, systems. You can go back if you need to. You can also sign in to your specific planet. I think, if I remember the one that Michael gave me, hopefully. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you can log in with your account, and you can own a planet, or you can see other people's planets. Ideally, yeah, I'm not the owner of this planet, so I can't edit. Let me try to see if I can find a new planet to add it.
This is all going to be released, first version, testing version, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure if there's anyone that I can, but you're able to edit basically every aspect of the planet, like what your lab looks like. You can add rocket ships, flowers, signs, aliens. You can change what the land looks like, what the background looks like, which is really cool. It's just your own way of like designing, getting a sense of ownership of your planet. And then you can go into the lab and you can have your like bio, like quick facts about you. People can like your bio. You can change what your avatar looks like or upload your own file. You can edit your projects. If you like made a project through Build It Yourself and you want to add something in, and then you can like view the project. You can add skills. So like specific skills, like if through a project you got some skills, and let's say you're now a master at like PowerPoint, then you can write down PowerPoint and add your skill, and people will be able to see that, see like what you're well versed in.
Cool.
And
can you show
yeah.
a little bit, Tomisi, about the code, the back-end code, and explain the tools we're using, and
Yeah.
GitHub, and the whole kit and caboodle? What they will learn that could be useful if they want to pursue computer science.
For sure. Yeah. So all of this stuff is saved through a serverless structure, which just means that like we're not using our own servers. But Amazon offers like a variety of services where we can store all the data on their services, and we pay a small fee to like access the data and like do some functions with it. So on the backend side, we have quite a few services that we're making up just to like store everything. Let me see if I can log in. But like we're in the middle of doing that. We have user authentication, which is done using AWS Cognito, which is just a way of like verifying, like being able to log in and like having different a different environment, like a different way that people interact, based on how they log in. We have like, yeah, we're adding like the authentication in for each of these services, for like the system, galaxies, quadrants, planets, users in the lab. And
can you talk a little bit about the front end and the framework we're using, why we're using the framework and the code?
Yeah. So we're using React, which React's JavaScript is another way of like creating web pages like in a way that's a lot more broken down. So like we can adjust specific aspects of the front end like as we need. So like we have menus like planets. Each planet has its own things that you can change about the planet. So we use separate components, and React is really good because it only really registers changes. So it's not constantly loading the entire web page at a time. So it's a lot easier, and it's a lot less CPU power that like it takes up on your computer. So it should allow the website to run a lot faster. And then you guys have been doing like JavaScript and like HTML.
HTML, already a little bit of JavaScript. Mhm.
Yeah, so this stuff should look pretty similar to like the HTML things that you see, and then we work on like all the like JavaScript methods that help put like everything together. We style all of our elements ourselves, and yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tomisi. Lucian, can you speak a little bit to HTML versus JavaScript and what you can and can't do with HTML versus JavaScript?
I mean, to be honest, I have not worked on front end very extensively, but I have worked with JavaScript. It was the first language that I learned, and I learned it in a more front end type setting. And I have worked with rudimentary HTML. With my limited knowledge, I would say that HTML is more like raw. I don't know if that's like a like good term for it, but I feel like it's more directly related to like the actual format of web pages, and like it's really closely tied to it. Whereas JavaScript is more of a like distance connection. You can still do like all the same things, but I would say that the way that in which you do them maybe is more like object oriented in JavaScript, because it's a very I don't know, it's like, just like a very different language. As far as backend goes though, we don't use HTML for backend, but we do use Node.js as our programming language. Node.js is a variant of JavaScript. It's actually designed for backend web development. It's really optimized for that. And so it's able to handle a lot of like synchronous requests, and it really is designed around request handling. So whenever something from the front end gets sent to the back end, it's optimized with all of its request handlers, and everything is essentially meant to take in data and perform actions on it and return it back to the front end as quickly as possible.
Great. All right, I have a feeling you can answer this question, the distinction between HTML and JavaScript when you use this HTML versus JavaScript. My general understanding is that HTML is designed primarily for stuff that's static, and JavaScript is used primarily for stuff that's for functionality that's interactive.
Yeah.
All right, would you like to add anything to that? Because I know you have experience on both sides.
Yeah, I think that's basically the main thing.
Okay, great. All right, well, again, the goal here, guys, was to get you familiar and turned on to Invention Universe. We make an invitation to all of you to help us test this in a couple of weeks, and then ultimately to help us package all of our documentation, fine-tune our documentation, and then if you're really into it, help us with the graphic design and with the coding. So any other questions, guys, before we adjourn? Lucian, Tomisi, thank you for introducing us to Invention Universe. Donovan or Ari, Dan, Thomas, are there things about Invention Universe that particularly pique your interest? Okay.
I think the graphic design.
Sure, of course. Yeah, great. Well, we're gonna need we're gonna need help expanding our libraries of symbols, and we will need help defining buttons as we add functionality. We're going to have to add, in most cases, we're going to have to add buttons to the control panels, maybe even change the design of the control panels in some cases.
Yeah, there's definitely no shortage of things to add. It's essentially going to be like a huge DIY. It's like social network where kids can like look at each other's stuff and like show their own projects off, and it should be really fun.
Yeah, this has a never-ending future. We'll always be working on this, always be evolving this, gamifying it. Okay, guys, thanks for your time. See you next time.
See you.
Thanks, Lucian. Thanks, Tomisi.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
We'll
And
be
great
in
to meet
touch,
all of you.
Thomas, Andy, and Ari, about the next meeting and getting set to test Invention Universe.
Cool.
Bye.
Sounds great.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you guys.
Ciao. Goodbye.
Bye, Thomas.